what does it matter? We need to learn to say that. Turn to your neighbor and say, what does it matter? Do it again. What does it matter? Get it in your spirit. What does it matter? You know what that means? So what? It's no big deal. It doesn't matter. It's not an issue. Two things will help us face criticism and poor motivation in the hearts of other people. The first is when we're passionate about people hearing the gospel. Paul's passion is the gospel goes out. Look at what he does. This is so interesting. But what does it matter? Now listen, if you have a friendship, a relationship, and you can speak to somebody and you're concerned about them, you should. But at the same time, if they rebuff you, if they reject you, in the long run, what does it matter? Don't come telling me what your perception is of somebody else's motive. What does it matter is what I'm going to say to you. Because we can't run around and try to correct people's motive when we can't see people's heart. So if we know they're doing, look at this. The important thing is that in every way, whether from false motives or true, Christ is preached. Did you get that? Paul says, even if the motive isn't great, the work is being done. You know, if somebody's causing disunity, at some point that has to be addressed. So there's a balance there. But I'm just saying, all of us need to have, and I think when you read through Philippians, one of the things that you get from the Apostle Paul is all of us need to have the perception and the perspective and the mentality that says, you know what? I'm going to be gracious toward people, and I'm going to trust the gospel's going out, and I'm going to give people the benefit of the doubt. In Paul's case, he says, listen, the important thing is whether from false motives or true, Christ is preached. Paul's not in the ministry to be appreciated. Paul's not in the ministry. He's not serving the Lord so he looks good to other people. Let me ask you this. What is it that motivates you to serve in the church? Is it because you're afraid of what people will think if you don't? Or is it because you love the Lord and that's why you do it? I would venture to say for the overwhelming, I mean like the 99% of workers, that's why you're doing it. And when you're doing it for the Lord, then you leave those things with the Lord. Here's what's very interesting. Paul is not going to engage in a defense and say, well, you know what? He does in Corinthians because of the circumstances. But here Paul is like, you know what? I'm not going to spend my time worrying about that. What's interesting to me is Paul now is much older. He's probably 10 years older than he was at Corinth. And you find in him just this gentleness that says, you know what? I'm not going to worry about it. If I'm to be defended, I'm going to let God defend me. Better to let the Lord defend you than to defend yourself. He always does a better job. Some of you, you've got people saying things about you, or worse, you think they are, and you don't know if they are or not. And you're putting yourself in a hell of your own making. A torment, let it go. What does it matter? I don't think they like me. What does it matter? I think they've said something. What does it matter? Well, so what? And I think when you go there and you say, you know what, the important thing is, hey, they're serving, even if they're not serving from the greatest motive, Christ is advanced, and in that's what I'm about. You say, but if people don't have the right attitude, isn't it going to hinder the gospel? It's interesting, Paul doesn't see it that way. We would see it that way. We'd say, well, you don't have the right attitude, then, why even do it? Paul doesn't see it that way. For sure, he doesn't rejoice in their sinful attitude, but he rejoiced in their preaching of Christ. He says, I'm going to rejoice. Look at it, verse 18. He says, and because of this, I rejoice, yes, and I will continue to rejoice. He's saying, listen, I am fine. Don't worry about me. Don't worry about what people say about me. That's not a concern. Christ is preached, and I'm happy. Number two, remember the good people God has placed in your life. This is so, so important. And this takes us back to the very first message, Philippians chapter 1 and verses 4 through 5. I always pray with joy. Why? Because of your partnership in the gospel. And then he goes on and talks about his affection for them. Paul has chosen in his life to think about the good. To think about good people. Look at it in verse 15 through 16. It's true that some preach Christ out of envy and rivalry, others out of goodwill. The latter do so in love, knowing that I'm put here for the defense of the gospel. He says, listen, I know there's some who do whatever they do for bad motives, but there's a whole lot of people that do it out of love. Paul knows that he has a choice, no matter what people do. And the choice is, what am I going to think about? And who am I going to think about? You know, in life, you can focus on everything that's wrong, and if you look for it, you'll find it. You can focus on everybody who ever did you wrong, and it'll make you miserable. It will affect your attitude, your perspective on life, and you'll begin to get this victim mentality. And it will come out in the way you think, the way you plan, the way you live. Or you can go back and you can make a list, and I would just encourage you to do this in your devotional time. If you're struggling with feeling like, man, there's just been all these people that have done me wrong, I would encourage you to make a list of the people that have done you right. And begin to thank God for them. Lord, thank you. I thank you for this person and what they did, and begin to tell God what they did. And I thank you for this person and what they did, and begin to tell God what they did. And I thank you that you put these people in my life. And I thank you that you put this person or this couple or these people, and you begin to go through and write down all of the good people God has placed in your life. And I'm telling you, if you're a child of God, there are good people. If you're in any question, look around you. This room is filled with fantastic people. And begin to thank God for them. We all have a choice. We can get caught up with what's wrong and end up never seeing what's right, or we can choose to look at the good things. And Paul is a living illustration of what he's going to write in Philippians chapter 4 and verse 8. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if there's anything excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things. Those are the things we want to think about. A key to joy in the Christian life is to recall the goodness of people, the sacrifices made, the good deeds done. But if you only focus on the negative things, you'll doom yourself to a life of bitterness. And God wants you to know His joy.